This article is from Bounding Into Comics. Brie Larson reportedly grew disillusioned with Captain Marvel role, doesn't want to play the part anymore. As reported by the Direct, author Joanna Robinson claims that Larson grew disillusioned with the role in her book MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios. Specifically, Robinson wrote, "The future of those Marvel icons was unclear. The departure of franchise anchors like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson, as had the shocking loss of Chadwick Boseman. But other MCU stalwarts were heading for the exits. The Guardians of the Galaxy cast went on a farewell tour, Brie Larson grew disillusioned, and Marvel tussled with Sony in a custody battle over Tom Holland." During an appearance on the Watch podcast, Robinson added, "I don't know if Brie Larson was the wrong person for the role necessarily, but the toxic backlash means that Brie Larson doesn't want to play Carol Danvers anymore," she added. That's sort of what she said. She was interviewed in D23, and they're like, "So we're going to see a bunch more from Carol Danvers?" She's like, "I don't know. Does anyone want to see me play Carol Danvers? Doesn't seem like it." Now, that interview in particular is from way back, posted on Variety's Twitter on September 10th, 2022. But what's interesting about this story is what's written next, specifically about the original plan for Chadwick Boseman, Tom Holland and Brie Larson to be the new primary leads of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, following the retirement of the original core Avengers cast members Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans. Robinson went on to detail that Larson wanting to leave the role of Captain Marvel was not the case during the filming of Avengers Endgame. She said, "Chadwick Boseman told me the story about on the set of Endgame, he and Brie Larson and Tom Holland sat around and talked about how they were the future of Marvel and how exciting that was for them. And when you look at the breakdown between the Sony Marvel deal over Spider-Man, when you look at Chad Boseman passing away, and you look at Brie Larson either not being a great fit or just, being damaged by toxic fandom, whatever that means, then that plan that they put into play, they felt like they were creating another A-team." Robinson added, "There's so many factors that came into play that sort of knocked their plan out under them." Yeah, so, obviously no one could have foreseen the tragic death of Chadwick Boseman, and then the whole controversy over Tom Holland's Spider-Man regarding Disney and Sony, that was a big mess. Now, as for this claim of toxic fandom, there was a section of the fan base who I believe were understandably upset with some statements that Brie Larson made prior to Captain Marvel. In particular, some things she said at a speech that she gave in 2018, and I've covered that in a video I made back then. The link to that video is in the description box below if you want to check it out. The statements she made were not popular with some people, and they turned some people off. That's just the reality. Added to that, the sort of Mary Sue quality of the character of Carol Danvers / Captain Marvel. And suffice to say, there wasn't as much interest in Captain Marvel, the character, as there was for some of the others. And in addition, this is perhaps something we don't talk about all that often, but I think there was no need to introduce Captain Marvel before Endgame. So clearly there was a mandate to squeeze the character into Endgame, hence Captain Marvel, the film, being positioned between Infinity War and Endgame. And it didn't feel like the character had really earned her place among the Avengers at that particular stage, given that the other Avengers were well established, they'd been around a very long time, and here was Captain Marvel basically being shoehorned into the end of this particular third phase, and it felt a bit rushed. And so here was this new character really being pushed on us very hard, very quickly, and to a certain degree, I think stealing some of the limelight from the long-running characters. So fans noticed this, and some of them didn't like that. So much so, there's a scene at the end where Captain Marvel jumps into the final fight with Thanos, and it just doesn't feel right. That fight should have been for the veteran characters, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and Hulk. That was their fight. And she's a little bit of an interloper there. She nearly upstages them in some respect. It was the wrong creative choice. So Captain Marvel should have been written better. I think the character could have easily been fixed in some regards. But the whole introduction of Captain Marvel signaled the end of the MCU as we knew it at that point, and the beginning of the MCU era that really characterized the fourth phase of the franchise. But the character was also very poorly written. But I would certainly understand her reluctance to want to play the role again. The new film doesn't look great either. Lessons now have to be learned, and I actually think they will be learned. I have a strong suspicion that as part of the retooling of the MCU going forward, you can expect a return to a safer, tried and tested formula, which is why I suspect future phases will likely see the return of some familiar old faces who have previously left the franchise. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching this video. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.